Food security is directly dependent on security of land ownership, and about 30% of the Namibian workforce is directly involved in agriculture. Agriculture, a key pillar of our economic growth, has been gravely affected by the recent drought. Agriculture's contribution to our national gross domestic profit has also declined slowly year after year and now stands at just under 6% to the GDP. The land reform program has been moving at a slow pace. The unavailability of land for the state to buy, lack of coordinated post-settlement support services, and insufficient funding are some of the issues hampering the process. In 2004, government initiated a process of land expropriation to complement the willing buyer, willing seller system. But due to legal bottlenecks, the process proved to be costly for the state. The United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization noted in 2015 that high prices have hampered efforts of affordable land distribution. FAO, in a report conducted on behalf of the Land Reform Ministry, indicated that only 2.6 million hectares were acquired, mainly due to high prices of land in the country. The report suggests government accepted high price offers, thus setting precedents for future transactions, as sellers, government evaluators, and state agencies then use these prices as a benchmark. This year, Agribank's announcement of reviewing the evaluation policy came as a pleasant surprise. Agribank has aligned its valuation policy to the international value standards and to market practices in Namibia. The move promises to make land prices more responsive to local market trends. The government has set a target of 15 million hectares of commercial agricultural land to be transferred to previously disadvantaged Namibians by 2020, mainly through affirmative action loan scheme and government's resettlement program. With us in studio to explain Agribank's part in this process is CEO Zakaria Ntembwa. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to One Exclusive. With us in studio is Mr. Nkembwa, CEO of Agribank. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Alna.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Our pleasure.
Now let's get right into it. Recent media reports suggest that you have made quite the inroads with your property valuation process. Now, this is not just evaluating the farmland, but also the pricing thereof. You guys have adapted international value standards, and you've adapted your valuation policy to, Namibia's local, practical, relevant market practices. Let's talk about this move. Why is it so significant?
Yeah, thank you. I think a couple of things. One is it obviously aligns us to international best practices. Secondly, it aligns us to what the market is doing. And thirdly, it's actually very good for the customer. So what we have done is to move away from, in terms of farm valuations, to move away from a production income method to a more comparable market method. Okay. In terms of the houses that we sometimes take as collateral for our houses, we've done the same thing, where we have moved away from the replacement cost method to basically a comparable sales method. So the effect of that is that it's actually a win for the customer, because if you look at the market value, the valuation tends to be higher than the method that we were using previously. So that means the customer actually qualifies for more loan or for a higher loan than they would have qualified for in the past, which then means that if there is going to be a shortfall in collateral, it's going to be much less than what it used to be in the past. In most cases, then there is no shortfall, so the customer doesn't have to give an extra asset as collateral for a farm loan, for example, that they are getting. So it's actually quite a win.
There's more flexibility now with the way that you are valuing the farmlands. I mean, it's not the prices aren't as rigid because you are comparing them to other farms.
Exactly.
Explain a bit, I mean, for the layman out there, how does that work?
Exactly. So what you actually do is you look at a record of sales in a particular area using the deeds office records, and you look at what the farms have been bought for, and that gives you an idea of the going rates for farms in that particular area, which then means, of course, that it could most likely advantage clients because it reflects the demand and supply in the market.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now let's move right on. The next thing that was really in the news at the moment, there was a state-owned bank that has come under fire for mismanagement. Now, what makes Agribank different?
Yeah, it's our attitude towards governance. I think that's the key thing. So we've got quite a comprehensive governance framework. We have got very robust governance processes that we follow. And when I say framework, we've got the board at the top of the bank. It's a very good board in my assessment.
A local board?
Local board,
yes.
Very well qualified. And they have very clear terms of reference in terms of what the mandate of the board is and the charter of the board. And under the board, you also have committees that deal actually with all the areas of the bank, from financial management oversight to audit oversight to compliance oversight to credit assessments and credit decisions oversight to investment appraisals and investment decisions oversight to the human resources governances. So these committees cover all the areas, and obviously they meet quite regularly to look at what's happening, and they are able to provide guidance and pick up if anything is not going right. Internally as well, we have very solid, well-resourced functions. We have a very good internal audit function, so they're looking at the control and the control environment. We've got a compliance function, well-resourced as well. We've got a risk management function, and these are complemented by the external audit function. So our approach is that we need to manage this business or this bank prudently. We need to manage it in terms of international best practices in terms of governance. We need to comply to all the laws and regulations in this country, and there must be no qualified audits.
Let's just look at, the other structures that you have put in place. I mean, you've recently established the Agri-Advisory Service Division.
Yeah.
So you are trying to tackle your arrears. What other things are we going to be seeing in the future that's similar?
Yeah, let me talk about Agri-Advisory. This is really a division that we have established effective 1 April, and is really looking at the training and mentorship of farmers. Fantastic. And of our clients. And the training part really talks to how can a farmer, especially an upcoming farmer, manage their farm in a way that it's productive, so that they understand the basics around farming, the basics around agriculture, but also how do they manage this farm so that at least it represents a business, so that it's run sustainably. Issues around record keeping, issues around marketing, and issues around managing their people. So you produce, but you also manage the farm well so that it's actually sustainable. And the courses around that actually talk to those elements. The mentorship part is much more the guidance, the hand-holding, where you've got an experienced mentor who is basically assigned to an upcoming farmer. And this farmer has the opportunity to ask, the farmer has an opportunity to soundboard things, and this farmer has an opportunity to even visit, the mentor's farm, and have a look at what's happening and adopt best practices. The whole idea is to make sure that not only do we lend money, but we also make sure that we help the farmers who need the skills and the experience to actually launch their farming careers successfully.
And I mean, you are empowering them to pay back their loans effectively as well.
Exactly.
So for instance, now they're forecasting a record year for maize production. Would you then help these farmers make the best out of what they're getting from this season?
Yeah, I think from the Agri-Advisory Services point of view, using specifically the mentorship link, if the farmers that are part of this program have questions around how best they can make use of the bumper harvest. They can actually link up with their mentors. They can get advice in terms of where and how to sell, and how to invest the proceeds from that as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Minister Mutorwa has recently announced that they are going to be the government's making more than 5,000 extra hectares available for farmland. Now, agriculture's contribution to the GDP has steadily dropped over the years. And I mean, it's still an incredibly big sector. It employs, I think, 30% of our workforce. How are we going to bring agriculture back to its heyday stance?
Yeah. So our contribution there is, I think, really in a couple of ways. I think one, you speak about green schemes.
Yes.
We do provide financing to the small-scale farmers in these green schemes, and if there is expansion, I mean, we would extend our financing solutions to those new farmers as well. So they contribute to GDP. We are at a stage also that we are now financing agribusiness as well as the commercial farmer on these green schemes. So again, that will help expand production at these farms and therefore contribute to GDP. Something else that we are doing is we are now going big time into communal areas to lend to communal farmers as well, so that they can improve their productivity and production, and thereby also contribute to, one, food security at household level, and therefore, secondly, to GDP growth. And the last thing at the moment that I'd like to mention that we are busy with is that we have just signed off on a funding strategy to support value addition in agriculture. So agro-processing, in other words.
Okay.
So where people can set up, call it manufacturing plants, to add value to the basic produce that comes out of farms.
So not just harvesting the maize, but processing it,
yes,
cleaning
exactly,
it, packaging it.
Exactly. So you could make juice if you wanted to make juice. If you can make the inputs from the other farmers.
Brilliant.
You could process your beans if you produce beans. You could process your butter if you are in dairy, and package your milk and so on. Really to add value. So to move from financing basic agriculture as in farmland and livestock to adding value to what comes out of the farms.
So you're really diversifying that portfolio then for your clients?
We are. Our mandate is to serve as a catalyst in the transformation of agriculture, and the way that we do that is through innovative financing solutions, and that's really what we're busy doing at the bank.
Now let's talk about your arrears. I think the reports that I read suggested it's standing at 500 million, which is not too bad. Do you guys have any, short, maybe midterm plans to bring that amount down?
We're busy with quite an intensive strategy at the moment. Okay. So what we have done is to say, up to a particular point, we take the arrears and we outsource the collection of the arrears to debt collectors. And we have appointed 2 debt collectors. The first one started mid-Feb. The second one started beginning of March, and we're making good progress in terms of those collections. The second thing is for your normal installments that are current, and when they become due, our internal team of recovery officers make sure that they collect that, so that we don't fall into a situation of big arrears again in future. I'm quite happy where we got to with the collection strategy. We're making very good progress. It has not been a long time since we implemented it, but I think in another 8 to 12 months when we talk, it's going to be a totally different story.
Brilliant, good news. Now, the unions have also stepped up and applauded Agribank for making them a part of, these key strategies and these conversations.
Yeah.
What do you attribute that success with the unions to?
I think that success needs to be seen in the context of our broader stakeholder engagement strategy. We've got quite a well-defined, well-crafted and very clear stakeholder engagement strategy where we define all our key stakeholders, where we define when and how we interact with them and what we will engage them on. I think the unions, and in this case the farmers' unions, are just one of the stakeholders that we have engaged in the last while. And there are many more that we have engaged, and there are many more that we will engage. And so our plan is quite clear, that we do not exist in isolation. We exist in a universe of stakeholders that we need to constantly engage. And it's from that point of view that we have built that relationship with the farmers' unions.
Fantastic. Now, I didn't add this in my original script, but I do know the breweries have recently spoken about, new forms of agriculture, like, for instance, growing asparagus at a large scale. Are there any interesting new projects that are coming toward Agribank, people that are, really pushing the boundaries of what's been done in Namibia agricultural-wise?
Yeah, I think at the moment, maybe not so much, but I think it's a function of, if people know what you are going to finance, then you will see projects coming forward. So when we go shortly to the market and tell people that we are financing agro-processing, for example, you're going to see quite a lot of proposals coming forward. So we are quite open to any proposal, to look at any proposal, as long as it is related to agriculture.
Yes.
And if somebody wants to grow asparagus and they have a business plan around it and they have a captive market and they can demonstrate that to us, I think the rest is a process in terms of how we appraise that.
Mr. Nikembwa, can you tell us, is there any final words that you have for your clients or for farmers in general in Namibia?
Yeah, a couple of things. I think one is, as I have said, our mandate is to make sure we catalyze the transformation of agriculture by providing affordable and innovative financing solutions. And we can only do that if two things are in place. I think the first thing is that if our clients are productive on their farms, so they use the farms productively, then we can play the role that we are supposed to play to add value to GDP and to Namibia and employment creation and poverty eradication. And secondly, we can only play our role if our clients pay back. So when we extend money and they are productive and they are able to pay back, we can reach out to more and more clients. So we can really extend the developmental impact that we are playing to more and more Namibians.
So they should empower you to empower them.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, sir. That's all we have time for tonight.
Thank you.
Viewers, that's all from us this evening. Be sure to SMS your comments on tonight's story to 555. SMS is charged at $1 Namibian, or comment on the story on our social media pages. Good night.